Kick-ass facts, insane, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, government experiments. Pew 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 pew! Project MKUltra was an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the US CIA and intended to develop procedures and identify drugs that could be used during interrogations to weaken people and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. The program started in the 1950s and lasted seemingly until 1966. Under MKUltra, often unwilling subjects were given drugs, especially hallucinogens like LSD. The people tested were also put through sleep and sensory deprivation, hypnosis, sexual abuse, and other kinds of psychological torture, while some tests proved lethal. The supposed goal of the project was some combination of chemical weapons research and an effort to create mind-controlling drugs to combat the Soviets. Speaking of the Soviets, the Soviet biological weapons program began in the 1920s and lasted until at least September 1992, but has possibly been continued by Russia after that. The Biological Weapons Convention, BWC, is a disarmament treaty that effectively bans biological and toxin weapons by prohibiting their development, production, acquisition, transfer, stockpiling, and use. It was signed in 1972 and went into effect in 1975. Why is that important? Because the Soviet Union continued the development and mass production of offensive biological weapons despite having signed the BWC. In the 1980s, the Soviet Ministry of Agriculture successfully developed variants of foot and mouth disease and rinderpest, an infectious viral disease in cattle, African swine fever for pigs, and psittacosis, also known as parrot fever, to kill chickens. Their plan was to spray these down on enemy fields from tanks attached to airplanes over hundreds of miles. The secret program was codenamed Ecology. A production line to manufacture smallpox on an industrial scale was launched in the Vector Institute in 1990. However, on April 11, 1992, Boris Yeltsin decreed the termination of research on offensive biological weapons, the dismantlement of experimental technological lines for the production of biological agents, and the closure of biological weapons testing facilities. I'm sure since the first time around when they signed the BWC and they just ignored it, I'm sure the second time they were totes legit. The Large Hadron Collider, LHC, in Switzerland is built to study particle physics. It is the world's largest machine, single most sophisticated scientific instrument, and the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator. It has been blamed for causing earthquakes and pulling asteroids towards the Earth. While conspiracy theories around the LHC have generally been disproven, it has also been accused of potentially creating black holes that could swallow the Earth, a possibility that was curiously not completely discounted by CERN, the organization running the collider. CERN claimed the LHC is not dangerous, but also acknowledged that some type of black hole could be created. The U.S. Public Health Service syphilis study at Tuskegee, a government-funded study from 1932 to 1972, denied treatment for syphilis to 399 black men with syphilis in rural Alabama. Participants' informed consent was not collected. Researchers told the men they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. In exchange for taking part of the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. By 1943, penicillin was the treatment of choice for syphilis, but the participants in the study were not offered treatment. The goal of the experiment was to study the natural progress of syphilis if left untreated. 28 of the men in the study died directly from syphilis, while 100 died from related complications. In 1973, a class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of the study participants and their families, resulting in a $10 million out-of-court settlement in 1974.